Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back. This is Alex2K, and let's do a little recap on, except the clothing. He's already clothed, but let me see if I can hide that layer for now. Okay, so let's just select these guys to hide them. There we go. Alrighty, so let's do a recap on what we have done so far. This is Rudy, and let me just hide the medium poly. This is the low poly version of Rudy. And yeah, the feet are not textured yet, as you can see. But anyway, again, so a recap. What we have done so far is everything up to the clothing. So you have a mesh that's neat, it's organized. You have the low poly version. This is the low poly version. You got the feet, and I was mentioning before the flow for the ankles, as you can see on the outside. There's a little bit of a curve around, and it just curves back down. Um, there is the curving on the back. There is the curvature that comes from the chest up into the shoulders. As you can see, it rolls around and rolls around and rolls around until it reaches that point. Just double click that guy and you can see it's a little spiralish. It's a simple spiral, so it's not a big deal. As long as the spirals are kept small, everything's groovy-dooey. Um, you have the eyelashes, so here's the eyelashes there. I actually made mine via texturing. And, he doesn't have any hair, so I'm not going to give him any serious hair. It might work a little bit on maybe some furry looking hair, but I'll figure that out when I get there. Um, so that's a low poly, okay? You got the, of course, all the flow for the head and the flow for the ears, and you also want to try to maintain that as clean as possible. And then comes the clothing. Oh, the hands. Like I don't know if I mentioned before that the hands on him are actually not so easy because they're not straight out like the tutorial that we made. So it's a little bit trickier to get that form going. But regardless, once you get that shape, then you have to start doing all the clothing. And here's the clothing that I have for him. And to make this clothing, it's pretty much the same process that we've done. I mean, it actually just all starts with just a basic extraction, pretty much, of that character, and then it's just adding more information onto it, and just splitting and splitting and splitting and extruding, and you know, it's not that big of a deal. It's just time consuming. But there are some techniques that can help you to speed up the flow, particularly with areas like this, for example. It's like, how can you go about doing something like this to curve around and without having to manually go in and move each one? You can do it like that though, but it can get a little bit uh, tedious. Um, and same with little things like this, for example. It's like, how do you get all these guys to wrap around without having to do that one at a time? It takes a little bit of planning, but you know, once you plan it out, then you can start implementing basic tools to make that happen. So the first thing you do for the clothing is you have this low poly guy, you duplicate him, and then that duplicate you hit smooth on. So this is actually, it's got smooth, and that smooth is going to give you enough resolution to extract out that mesh. So how do you extract a piece? Well, it's simple. You select a face or a group of faces, right? So for example, like I can do like double click, and double click. So I got this selection of edge loops there, and then you can control right click to faces, for example. See, so now I got a face selection there. And to extract out, you just go to, you're actually not going to extract it, you're going to duplicate the faces. But you know, if you want to extract it, you can totally do that. This is a duplicate anyway. um, if you go to the polygon menu under edit mesh, there's two tools. One of them that says duplicate face, which is this guy, and another one which is actually under mesh that says extract. Extract will actually extract that polygon out of the mesh. See, so that selection is extracted out. And I'm just going to make another random selection here, and duplicate face will actually just click out and click back in, center the pivot. Duplicate face will actually duplicate the face. What's good about duplicate face though is that if you come here to the option box where it says separate, chip off, there we go, poly chip off, or you can just press T as in toy, and you'll see this little controller there, and you can offset the mesh. It's almost like extruding without the extrusion. So you know, that's something you can do. You don't have to do that, but you can do that, and that will facilitate your life. But anyway, that's how you can take the base to start working on this. And after you have that, then you might want to de-res it and then up-res it. You know, de-res it so you can work a little faster, and then up-res it again, meaning like, you know, if this has too much resolution, I can just select those guys and to edge loop and delete, and maybe I can select this guy, that guy. Take a little bit of time just to do a little setup. That's something you can do. Or just ignore the whole high poly thing and just work on the low poly. But you know, sometimes, you know, extract out from the low poly. Sometimes though that can get a little tricky because you don't have enough information. Then for little things like this, and that's what this tutorial I really want to focus is more on the accessories, because you know, clothing is going to take like forever on a tutorial, but accessories are kind of simple. So I'll just show you a little trick here. For example, if I make and it's all with basic tools, with a curve, a cylinder, and I grab this cylinder and maybe shape it up a little bit. So if I just take a little preview and see how that looks. Then maybe that could work. So just a simple curve, right? And another curve. And then you can extrude one into the other. Go to surfaces here. Maybe change some of the settings of the extrude. And adjust that curve a little bit. Let's just keep it like that. It's a tutorial. It's not like it's a... Alright, there we go. So with that, you know, very simple. You can Control D and move it up out of the way, and then just press Shift D from there on, and you end up with this huge line of a chain right there, right? So just delete the history on those guys, and I'm just gonna select only the curve that I did, and I'm just gonna delete that curve, which is what I just did. And you can just come to the top view and make another curve. So I'm just gonna press X and press X. And I pressed X so that it would snap to the grid. So I got this curve on there, right? And just by selecting these guys, I'm actually gonna combine them. Make my life easy that way. Select the curve. Actually don't select anything. Come to animation, create deformers, wire tool, and then you select the object, press enter, select the curve, press enter, and now if that curve moves, you can see that it's moving that geometry. Now, yeah, it's not moving in the greatest of ways, but you always have this option here that says drop off distance, and you can increase that drop off distance, and that allows you to select some CVs on that curve and then simply model your curve to the shape that you need, and then these guys are going to follow it. It might take a little bit more than one try to get it to work right, but for the most part, yeah, it seems to be doing what it needs to do. Now another option, if that doesn't burst your bubble, is to, let me just undo all the way back till before I combine them. There we go. So I'm just going to delete all these duplicates and delete the history on this guy. Select those two curves, whatever. I don't need them, right? And the other option you can do is to, again, make a curve. Let me find my curves here. There we go. So I'm just going to make a random curve, and I'm going to give it a little bit of a shape. And you can select this guy, shift select that, and make an animation path. Attach to motion path. I'm going to take off the follow, so it doesn't have any follow. I'm going to make it, the more links you want, the longer the length you want. But this is just a tutorial, so I'm going to keep it up to 90. Attach, and as you can see, it's doing that. So then I can come in manually and just do a little rotation there. I'll come back to that. I'm not going to set the keyframes yet, okay? The next thing you do is you select, now that this is animated, I didn't set any keyframes, it's just a path right there. So with that selected, you go into the animation tab again, and under animate, you make an animation snapshot, and you come to the settings, and it says, so what's the start frame? 0. What's the end time? I'm gonna make it 10, or I'm gonna make it 90. Forget it. And then the increment is how many frames. Every how many frames do you want it to save a snapshot? So I'm gonna tell it to. I'm gonna keep it at 5 just to show you what happens. Every 5 frames, it makes a snapshot of that object. And by making a snapshot, what it's actually doing is duplicating the geometry every 5 frames. Okay, so take that down to 1, or to 2 actually. And that's where it takes a little bit of work just to get it on the just right. But here's the trick though. Now that I have this, I can come to frame, let's say 5. I can rotate him and press Shift E. I'm going to set a keyframe on the rotate. And my animation snapshot didn't work. Let me see, what did I do wrong? Motion path. Oh. Yeah, I'm sorry. And I'm not going to re-record this tutorial, so attached to motion path, definitely. So it's already attached to the motion path. Now that it's attached to the motion path, what you have to do is you have to bake the keyframes, because it needs keyframes and it doesn't have keyframes, and that's why it wasn't working. So how do you give it keyframes? It's actually very easy. You go modify, edit, bake simulation, edit keys, bake simulation, option box. So it's going to tell you what's the start, what's the end, what do you want to key. So hierarchy selected, channels all keyable, or actually I'm just going to highlight these two guys there from channel box, and so whatever I have selected on the channel box, that's what it's going to make a keyframe on. Sample every frame, so bake. Boom. Now it made a keyframe every frame. So now this guy is actually like that, so I can actually delete that. Right? I'm gonna break the connections here in the rotates. Break connections. And now that that's there, I'm just gonna press Shift D. And now that that has a keyframe there, just at the very first frame, go to Animate, Create Animation, Snapshot, Snapshot. So it looks the same way, right? But now, come here to frame 10, and I'm going to rotate it, keyframe the rotation, and it updates. Ha! Isn't that cool? So that allows you to go adjusting it as you need it to your own liking. So with a little bit of planning and a little bit of work, you can get this to look pretty good. Alright, sorry about that. But you know, if you get confused, just rewind, like not all the way back, just a little bit back, so that you get it from where I got it right. Alright, so that's a technique, and not a lot of people know about it. I think, at least I haven't seen many people using it, so I think it's pretty cool. And I will see you next time with the next tutorial. Sorry about that one more time. Actually, I'm going to write it down. Sorry. My bad. But anyway, still, I hope you got it. And I'll see you in the next tutorial. See ya. Bye.